I got some weirdos Let's Play. So this is Half-Life 2. Now, Half-Life 2, and let me change the text on here too, because there's a thing with Half-Life 2. It's old now. It came out in 2004, I think. Half-Life 2. Bam. I know how to type. Yeah, a man in Half-Life 2 is straight up fighting a war, though. He's not on a personal journey to find a trinket. He is fighting an army of alien people who are enslaving humans. That's why he's killing hundreds of people. He's also an everyman. He doesn't talk. You don't get attached to him. It's weird in Uncharted because you know Nathan Drake and you identify with him as a person. That's the difference. And there are fewer enemies. You probably kill more enemies in Uncharted than in Half-Life. And these enemies are aliens. They're trying to murder you. They're not just randos in a mercenary army that you're murdering. Yeah, but it makes sense, more sense. I will give you, you do kill a lot of people in video games. It makes more sense for Gordon Freeman to kill all these people because he's like some kind of weird, not super soldier, but he's got a high-powered suit. He's got all these weapons. He's being like manipulated by the G-Men and the Vortigern aliens, and there's a lot of weird things going on. Yeah. Half-Life, okay, so Half-Life 2, can we get on topic? We can't talk about curly fries, no. Which was what we were talking about earlier. Half-Life 2 is great. Now, there's a lot of old things with it. So, it doesn't have regenerating health. That makes it feel a little old, and it kind of makes some areas a little weird in terms of, like, I only have 50 life, and I gotta run through here and fight all these guys. It's not... Uncharted has more fans than Half-Life. I don't know. I don't know about that. You might be right, though. You might be right, especially now. There hasn't been a Half-Life game in almost 10 years. There are other things that feel old about this, but think about it this way. This game, the way it tells a story, I would argue is just as good as Uncharted. It's not as personal of a journey, and you don't get as attached to all the characters, but think of Alex Vance, and you're going through this weird adventure with her in episode 2, and you get to see her in episode 1 and 2, and her journey with her father, and they're all related to you. It's very well told, and it never takes you out of the experience. You're always playing, for the most part, except when G-Man shows up, does his weird shit. You're sidetracking me. Sidetracking. The way it tells a story in a first-person shooter is still kind of ahead of the game than games now. The way it does pacing, especially, where you're constantly doing different things. You're on this boat, you're shooting down a helicopter, then you're sneaking around here, then there's a narrative portion, and it's like a mystery what's going on. Then you're in Ravenholm, and you're shooting these crazy monsters, which once again are crazy monsters, not living, breathing people or enslaving aliens. You're shooting them in half with saw blades, and then you're riding another vehicle across the coastline, and you're going across a bridge because you gotta open up the door on the other side of the bridge so you can drive by. And then you're controlling antlions. You're throwing antlion pods to direct them into things, and you're breaking into a prison, and you're setting up turrets. Like, each section is different, and it moves so naturally. It's a long-ass game, too. Long-ass game. And yes, fan base does not make a good game or bad game or whatever. And the Legend of Zelda games are revered, but they don't necessarily sell that great. And just because everyone loves Mario doesn't make Mario the best game ever or the best series ever. And a lot of these Uncharted fans don't seem to understand that Sully's an old man. He needs to relax. And you stop taking him out on adventures, okay? Let him enjoy his retirement, Drake. Love of God. So the pacing, impeccable pacing in Half-Life. But beyond that, especially in episode 2, which I think is the best part, and I think holds up incredibly well today. I just finished it yesterday. Okay, we'll get back to Uncharted 2. I'm joking. Uncharted is good. I can criticize things that are good. I'm largely just being goofy about Uncharted. Clearly just being goofy about Uncharted. The stories are great. The stories are well told, but they're not as intricate as the character arcs are interesting, but the overall plot of I gotta find this trinket isn't that. It's not that it's not compelling. It's just not nuanced or complicated. There are things going on in Half-Life where you're like this soldier who's being brought from, you were a scientist brought from the first Half-Life over to here. It's not very clear if you're even a real person if you think about it, or if you're just this tool of some aliens in this overall weird proxy war. Like there's crazy shit going on. And the bad guy, okay, what's his name? Eli Vance is not the bad guy. It's not that you can criticize things you like. There are things I don't necessarily like about Half-Life, but you can't necessarily argue what Half-Life's done or what Portal has done or what the Valve has done that have raised the bar. There's a reason why people want Half-Life 3, and it's because of how good and how different, and still how good and different it is from shooters today. But going back to episode 2, has some of the best combat encounters of the series with these new enemies that are weird bipedal, or maybe they have 3 legs, I don't know, tripedal? Is that even a thing? Weird hunters going around, and you're locked in a house and you gotta shoot them, and it just, the way it does it's hard to describe, the way it does it, of constantly giving you a new environment to fight the same enemies in, or a different situation with the same things. It layers these gameplay mechanics on in the way that Mario does, of like, here's a Goomba and here's a pit, and now here's 2 Goombas and here's a Koopa and here's a this. It starts throwing things at you and layering them on in a way that I really think if you haven't played, you need to play. It's definitely, I would almost say just play episode 2, but you're missing out on the story and the story beats of it, and it is overly complicated. It's kind of like Metal Gear, where it's just way too convoluted at certain points if you start looking into it. Story of Half-Life 2 is good. It is good. We're not saying, and I'm not comparing Uncharted to Half-Life 2. They're completely different games. I have other complaints with Uncharted where I think sometimes the platforming isn't clear and isn't fun in a certain way, and the rest of the time it's great. Uncharted is a 10 out of 10 game 80% of the time, and then the other 20% of the time I'm like, this isn't as good, and that's why it brings it down for me. And Half-Life 2 has those moments, but others stand too. Half-Life 2, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I played the original Half-Life 2 maybe 30 times. Like, I've played through it so many times that I know where the loading screens are going to show up, which is another anachronism of it. Mostly I look at the dev, not the game. Naughty Dog is a great dev, but Valve is also a great developer. Uncharted 4 has parts. I have not played Uncharted 4. Has 4 parts. I have not played Uncharted 4 yet. I have not played Golden Abyss. I've played the others. But clearly I don't remember them very well. Which was also played up as a joke. Because, again, dolls. Dolls. That's the other thing with Half-Life 2. I really wish grenade was a designated button. It's got a lot of weird control things that, when you play today, are not the same or as good as you'd expect shooters. As COD kind of made the whole aim with L and shoot with R kind of thing popular, I guess. There's a lot of things this game is kind of missing, especially like X isn't reload, it's B, which I know is a stupid thing to bring up, but it is a thing, and it is a little annoying. But yeah, Uncharted's great. I don't know. At this point, we're just comparing Uncharted and Half-Life. Just not the intention. Just not the intention. But that's the thing. I really like Resident Evil, but you can pick on Resident Evil. I don't really care. But these Uncharted fans, some of them are so hung up on this being the best game ever. It's I can't poke any holes in it. The game's not perfect. Even if you think it's a 10 out of 10, that doesn't make it perfect. You can find faults in it. Not everyone's going to like the same things about it. If you don't like Half-Life 2, that's fine. That's fine. I think you're wrong, but I can see it. I can see your point. The game does not play like modern games anymore. It doesn't fit right. It's very different. It's more of an adventure game, kind of an action adventure game, than it is a shooter at times. It's got these weird puzzles. Nah. I have respect for the way you handled the combo. Mate, good game. Got to go sleep now. Winky face. Got a lot of weird things going on. It's all opinions, but we can have discussions about it. That's the whole point. And not to be like, oh, you disagree with me? Go away. You're stupid. Bye. Like, that's not a discussion about it. There's people who don't like the Zelda games, and I'm fine with it. I think they're weird, but I can see it now. I can totally, that's fine. I mean, do whatever we got. I mean, there's people who only play NBA 2K whatever every year, and they think it's the best game. And I'm like, I don't get you, but go have fun. There's people who like, I don't like old games. There's people who like Angry Birds, and those people should straight up be murdered by Sackboy, also known as Sully. I don't like old games. Old games are great. I was just talking to someone the other day about Missile Command and Frogger, because Missile Command I love. When you can play it with a trackball. You gotta play it with a trackball, so you gotta find it. That's my dream, is to have a Missile Command machine with the trackball. Probably could just emulate that. Get a trackball and make it on my computer. Who did I say we should murder? Oh, Angry Birds. Angry Birds is awful. Also, Frogger's great. Angry Birds is terrible. I've tried to play it. It's just bad. It's just real bad. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Uncharted's not bad. That's the thing too. It's tough because I want to criticize certain things, and then it sounds like I'm being super negative on it. I do really like it. I do think the shooting's overall really good, and then sometimes it's really bad. And I think the platforming's really good, and the set pieces are really good, except when it's the problem when you have 10 amazing things in a row, and then one thing that like missteps. You focus on the one misstep, and that's how I feel about Uncharted. There's so many, not so many actually, there's just a few weird hanging points, like the jet skis in Uncharted 1, that just like, I can't get past them. I can't get past these certain points that just drag the whole experience down for me. Particularly in Uncharted 3, the boats, when you're on all the wrecked ships and whatever, not the cruise ship, but the wrecked ships before it. There's too much shooting. I don't think it's balanced quite right. There's this one encounter where there's like 16 guys to kill, and you just keep shooting and shooting and shooting. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to explore this weird wreckage, and it'd be so much more interesting without 50 guys. And that's part of the thing with Half-Life, is it does that well. It takes an encounter with 10 guys and makes it more meaningful, as opposed to an encounter in COD or anything where there's 30 dudes just constantly shooting and you're just murder, murder, murder. You have to think about these things. And this guy, I don't agree with how he plays at all. Why are you shooting them? Why don't you just gravity gun them? Oh, you don't have the gravity gun yet.